What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Sitting besides me on camera, Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. We've got a great guest today that we're going to introduce to everybody here in a second, named Brent Bowers. I'm looking to learn, a lot from him. As usual, we will dig into his story, a little bit of background, how he got into entrepreneurship, how he started investing in real estate. A lot of his focus right now is vacant land, flipping land. He gave us a little bit of a teaser before we started recording about a higher end piece of land that he put under contract and hopefully will sell for a big profit. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more of that backstory and things like that. Ian, what do you got cooking today?
I am hiding out at the beach for a few more days before the hurricane blows in. If my audio is horrible, I broke my microphone. It's in two pieces. I have no clue what happened, but I think the audio still works. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this episode. When you really think about it, I guess all real estate starts on a piece of land. So to even do anything, this is what we need. More importantly, guys, we like to bring in people that are doing real deals, not gurus. They're not here to sell you anything. We like to talk to real people that are actually doing real stuff. So if you get any value out of this, please feel free to share it, like, comment. You never know whose life you might change just by sharing this. And that's why we do this. We don't do ads. We don't do any of that other stuff. We do it because we actually enjoy talking to our guests, find out what's going on with them, and sharing that experience with everybody else that watches or listens to the show. So feel free to share that. And instead of me yapping along, we might as well bring Brent in all the way from Florida.
Hey, Brent, how are you?
I am really good. I hope no one could see what was going on backstage. That intro pumped me up. So good times. And man, Ian looks a lot different without that beard on that intro video.
We keep talking about updating that thing because everyone's like, "Man, whoa, no beard. What's going on?" So
I wouldn't.
I don't think we should update the video. Let's just update Ian.
Yeah.
No, we just talked about this before we hopped on. I am not shaving. I do not own a razor. It will never appear in my life ever again. So
I mean, at this point, you don't need a razor. You need clippers. You need scissors. Like, that's all you need. So, Brent, tell us a little bit about yourself. A little backstory.
Yeah, so I started in real estate in 2007, quit in 2009 in real estate because it was just not working for me. I bought that first rental property, got my license, was homeless for a little while. Had to break lease after I owned a rental property, a real estate license, and I was in business, and I was just eating humble pie. So I joined the military in 2009, reset life, go back to college. And I always had that entrepreneurship itch, that bug, that drawl. I mean, so much where it's like my first deployment, I was driving off the fob to go buy cartons of cigarettes from the Afghans and resell them to my friends. I used to use PayPal back in 2010 before it was super cool. But I always had that drive to get back into real estate. Got started again in 2013. Started wholesaling houses and flipping houses. And, that was like a job. It turned into a big job, as well as serving the military. And I really wanted to get out of the military, but I bought all these rentals and I was like, I'm sending all my discretionary income back to these rentals because things break like every single month. I didn't buy nice properties. I was buying fixer-uppers and the cash flow sucked. And I heard a guy talking on a podcast just like the Real Estate Reserve podcast, talking about vacant raw land and flipping this stuff and doubling his money overnight. And I was like, if it's half as what he says is true, if half of what he says is true, this is my ticket of how I can quit my job, how I can get out of the military, how I can get back to my family. Because I was tired of deploying, tired of training, always being gone. So I, had a huge why, and I didn't really know it then, but it was to get the heck out of the military. So I made it work in land investing, started, doing a bunch of land deals, made a ton of mistakes, and somehow or another still made money and built a passive income large enough to allow me to put in that resignation. And here we are now. I haven't had a real job since 2018.
I got to ask you, because I know that actually I'm coming up on the anniversary. Depending when this airs, it'll either be just before or just after my anniversary of quitting. It's been 2 years and it's still wild to me. That day you quit, because I know a lot of people that watch our show, they still have W-2s and they have this I want to quit. And we're going to talk about land investing, but what was that feeling, or, what was that like the day you were able to put your resignation in from the military? Presumably similar job to me, that you actually enjoyed helping people, defending our nation. What was that? Was it bittersweet, or were you like, I'm free, when you were able to turn that resignation in?
It was a little bit of everything. It was almost like I've never jumped out of an airplane personally, but I can imagine it would be something like that. I was like flying high, but also ready to poop my pants at the same time, because I was like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be homeless? I've got 2 kids and a wife and all these things. And like, I didn't want everyone to see me fail. All these people that told me, like, why would you leave the military? You're fast tracking. You could do anything. Like, all these people were trying to tell me and talk me out of it. And I was like, oh my God, they could see me fail. All these people, that the naysayers. So scared to death and happy as heck at the same time. So that first month, I mean, God blessed me so much. We had a $55,000 net profit month in May of 2018. So it wasn't very long when I was like, okay, this is going to work. And it's almost like Parkinson's law set in. It's basically the amount of time that you have, the task will expand. And I just kept putting all these extra things on my plate and hiring a team. And then we started flipping houses again. And it was just like nuts. And then we scaled, and then I had to downscale, because it's just an evolution of business. There's always a challenge for us to solve.
A little deja vu for you, Ian. Same situation. I mean, because that's what happens. I mean, that's what happens if, I think, for everybody, kind of across the board, like, you're scared to do it. I mean, Ian had a very sizable portfolio before he quit, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "I'm scared." And it's like, about what? And then, having the best month ever right afterwards, and it's like, geez, like this is significantly easier. So it's funny. Like, I think that's the story for a lot of folks, right? Like a lot of folks, and you're just used to that daily routine, and I think the change is more scary than anything else, right? Like, it's the right move. It's like, hey, I could free up all my time and do this. Imagine how successful I could be.
But think about it, and I mean, I'm sure Brent can comment on this too. Oh, your pension, your benefits, and you sit around the kitchen table with these dudes that are just beating it in your head. You're like, dude, you took this career because there's pension and benefits, and you love helping people, and you're like, yeah, I love that, and that's my identity. And then you're like, damn it, I need to get out of here. And you go home and you look at your wife and your kids, and you're like, nah, man, I need to spend more time here. And it's just like, it's hard, man. It really is. And they give you the golden handcuffs. And I know people with high paying W-2 corporate jobs, they're like, yeah, I'm waiting for my stock option. It's due in a few months, and then that's my bonus, and then I'll quit. I'm like, no, you won't, because they're going to drag another thing out there and say, you're not going to quit again. We're going to keep you here. So, hey, Brent, do you want to talk a little bit about your first deals? I think a lot of people could resonate with, you started flipping houses, or you had a rental and then you said it went sideways. Was it a military house? Like, what was going sideways with it? Why didn't rental properties work for you?
Yeah. And so much. I can't agree more with the golden handcuffs. There was always an extra and always a pay bump. Another reason just to put that little carrot in front of my face to keep me marching along, as like I'm seeing it. Like, this is a whole nother conversation, by the way, but like, we're trained in schools to go and get a job. Like, we're not trained to be entrepreneurs, risk takers, fearless, like business owners. Like, it's not that we're fearless. We're just like, we figure out ways to mitigate that risk. But going back to the question, those first deals, I started out very, very small. By the time I did the first land deal in 2016, I had already had like 9 doors, 9 rentals. And the first one I ever bought, which was in 2007, I paid $124,000 for it. I was getting about $900 a month rent. And I sold that stinking thing in 2019, several years too early. I sold it for exactly the amount I paid in 2007, which I look at that as like, man, that sucks. I didn't ever make a single penny on that rental. But on the other hand, I got my education in School of Hard Knocks and multiple evictions and who not to rent to, and like felons. Oh, goodness gracious. Like, I would rent to the highest paying people, and those were the worst tenants, because people with great credit scores, that treat houses well don't have to pay the highest price. So it was a lot of aggravation. And then I got to the 9 doors, and a lot of it had a lot of repairs and fix-ups, and I had maxed out multiple credit cards and Home Depot cards and Amex cards. So if someone didn't pay their rent, I was in big trouble. And I always figured out a way, but luckily I had that military job and I was moving through the ranks pretty quickly. So I was doing well, and I was hustling on the side. So I wouldn't say the rentals went sideways. It was just a very slow way of building wealth to me. Now, granted, I'm not talking about the principal pay down where the loan's getting lower, the appreciation. Now, I'm worth a lot of money from keeping a lot of those rentals now that they've appreciated and the balance is going down. Also, depreciation tax incentives that the government gives us for providing housing and buildings. But I just couldn't quit my day job, basically. I could not leave my day job until I found something that was profitable immediately and forever. And that turned into land. You asked about the first land deal. That first one was $285. I bought the land for $285, not buildable land. Had no clue what it was worth. It was in Palmer Lake, Colorado. Jason, I know you did some time in Colorado. I was in Colorado Springs. Palmer Lake, Colorado. Had no clue what it was worth, so I started calling real estate offices close by. Luckily, someone answered, and I was like, what's the blowout price? What can I sell this for quickly? I need to get her done now price, because I could not keep $285 locked up into this land because I just had my first baby and I was broke, basically. No excuses. I was freaking broke in 2016 as a second lieutenant in the military. So the realtor was like, well, I think you could sell it for $10,000. I was like, holy cow. Okay, that's a pretty good return on investment. How quick? She's like, pretty quick. So I thanked her for her time. I said, I'll let you know when I buy it. I'm in the process of buying it right now. She calls me back 5 minutes later and makes an offer for $5,000. I was like, let's do it. When do you want to close? She said, next week. So I called the seller. I said, hey, can I pay you on Tuesday? Because we're closing on Wednesday. I got a quit claim deed for this land. Didn't do title insurance. I didn't do a title search or owner's encumbrance. None of that. I was being an idiot. And I brought that quit claim deed to the title insurance company Tuesday night and went and picked up my certified check for $5,000 Wednesday night. So I was like, okay, that was awesome. Let's do some more. And I just kept going and doubling and just getting bigger and bigger land deals and building that passive income and seller financing them. But that was a lot. I'll let you guys talk.
No, dude, that's awesome. I don't know if you know Seth Williams, RE Tipster. He's up in, where is he? Michigan. But he has a similar story. We were talking to him about land a few months ago on the podcast. And similar story, just I don't know if I don't want to call them trash lots, but dude, you pick up a lot for next to nothing, turn around, sells it the next day. I mean, dude, that's pretty wild. And it's crazy to think that there's so much opportunity in land. And I think a lot of people put land, and I don't know, Jason, but I feel like people put land up here because it's so hard to think about oh, I got to go develop it and all these other things. You're literally talking about finding lots and turning them over for someone else to go develop them, correct?
Yeah, developing, that's hard work. Developers have big balls. They gotta figure out how they're gonna do the vertical or the horizontal construction and then the vertical. And we're doing that. I've got a big project. I've got partners and we're doing that right now. I'm like, this is not for me. Every Friday at 5 p.m. we're having a phone call. I'm just like, this sucks. I don't like this side of the business. I'd rather just collect payments. Can't we just sell or finance this thing to a developer that wants to take on all these burdens? But yeah, a lot of them in the beginning were trash lots. I had a piece of land in Pueblo, Colorado. It had a dump truck load of trash on it, literally. And I sold it just like that and quadrupled my money. I think I bought it for $3,000 and I sold it for, I think $12,000 or $13,000.
Yeah, I swear it's a West Coast thing, man. I think us being in the Northeast, we're just there is no land, there's no land around here. I think sometimes I wonder, and I would even challenge you, I don't know, Jason, I don't see a lot of people doing that business model over here on the East Coast where we are. I don't know. I mean,
maybe they are and we don't know about it, but
yeah.
You look on it, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. That's why I'm intrigued to hear. So where do you find these deals? I mean, are they on public listing servers, or is it just doing ads on Craigslist? What's a good way to even do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, I'm personally not doing deals in the Northeast where you guys are at, but I've got Alana Cohen. I just did a podcast with her on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast where I deep dove her story. She's a single mother of four. This chick is on her 11th land deal and she's in New Jersey. We've got guys doing it in Rhode Island, guys doing it in north area of New York, more in the kind of the rural areas up there.
Yep.
But me personally, I started in Colorado Springs, or El Paso County, Colorado. Then I branched out to Arizona, and then my dad was in Florida before I moved to Florida with me and my family. I started doing deals there. I love Alabama. Deals are great out there. I own land in Indiana. Like, we own land all over the country that we're getting payments on. Roughly 68 notes is what we have right now. And I couldn't imagine having 68 doors that had to deal with tenants and termites and the trash and the evictions and all that. These buyers never call and complain. There's really land everywhere. I mean, we just got a land deal in Miami, Florida. Now, there's not as much land out there, but when you get one, it's high demand. It's harder to get the stuff in where it's high demand, but really easy to sell it.
Sure. And then in essence, it seems like what you're indicating is you're doing, you're selling it, you're selling it on terms with these folks, right? So you're just carrying back paper on that, and then you're turning them into cash flowing deals.
Yeah, I try to sell every single one on seller finance. Now, sometimes I got to get a bigger down payment, like the one that I talked about before the recording. We just got under contract for $800,000. We should be able to blow it out for a 1.4 million, like a quick sale. I told my realtor right before we got on the phone with this, we will seller finance, but we need about an $800,000 down payment to pay off, the seller or our lender, however we go through this process, plus closing costs, plus your real estate fees. And then we'll carry the rest of that note. You asked how we're finding these parcels of land. Like, first thing I like to do is go and look for demand. Like, where's the demand happening? Where's the land selling in the country? Now, I like to go neighborhood level. Real estate's micro. This makes it a lot easier when we go to the neighborhood level because I send out what's called a land offer letter, the LOL. If anybody wants a copy of that, we've been triple split testing this land offer letter against postcards and checks, and cold calling and texting is a whole nother category. That's a job. That's too much work. But this land offer letter is by far outperforming everything else. And if anybody wants a copy of it, go to thelandsharks.com/LOL, as in land offer letter, or LFG. Let's go. That's at the end of Howard's name. I'm sorry. Ian's name there.
I could be a Howard. I mean, I've been called way worse.
Horowitz. How do you pronounce your last name? Like, I just
Horowitz.
Horowitz. Okay. Yeah. I saw
Georgia.
Howard there for a minute.
Yeah, it's all good.
But we send out this land offer letter. How are we doing it? So once we find where the land's in demand in the neighborhood level, it's as easy as going the prop stream and pulling that entire neighborhood worth of landowners. And then I'd like to chunk it down to the parcel size, because I know by looking at Zillow and Redfin, the free sites out there, what the stuff's selling for. Now, if you're in a non-disclosure state, you need to just make friends with a real estate agent that can give you that data. I'm not a real estate agent, but then we send out those land offer letters every single day, and some will, some won't. So what? Like, we are looking for people that want to do business today and detracting the people that want a big bag of money for their land.
So tell us a little bit about kind of the benefits of doing stuff for undeveloped or raw land compared to developed land. I mean, do land buyers care, what they do? Do you prefer to do stuff that's completely vacant? Do you do due diligence to determine if it's buildable or not buildable? I mean, we lend on land sometimes, but typically, like, we want to make sure it's buildable and in place and
yes,
things like that.
Absolutely. The first step I like to do is I like to see what's selling in the area. How much is selling for, how much per square foot, or how much per acre. That's the first bit of due diligence. And I got to see a profit, or I'm not even going to look at it. Someone sent me a smoking hot land deal yesterday in Colorado Springs. And I was like, oh my God, this is a great area. I love this land. And I couldn't find but one comp. So I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I had my acquisition manager, he's a young engineer, super brilliant kid, call El Paso County. I was like, figure out if this is buildable, figure out if we could subdivide it. Cause I'm seeing that, like, it's like almost 2 acres. I'm seeing there's 0.35 acres. I'm seeing there's 5,000 square foot lots and blah, blah, blah. And the county got back with us and said, we won't even let you build on this. It's too steep of a grade and this, that, and the other. So where I'm thinking the land's going to be worth 400,000, I'm buying it for like 300. It's not worth even 300. Like it's not even worth 100,000 because it's like they can't even use it to hunt on because it's not even big enough.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of folks, that's what scares them. I mean, that's what scares me on some stuff as well. Is there like tips and tricks, to potentially help people on, hey, like this is, here's some easy like 101 stuff that you can do.
Yeah, I'll give you another link, thelandsharks.com/DD as in due diligence. That's my land buying roadmap. That's my due diligence checklist. There's 14 things I like to double check. Okay, how do we access the land? Is there water? Is there sewer? Is you're going to have to put a septic system? Is it buildable? Like, and really it's easy to find that out if it's buildable by calling the county. Now, every county is different. There's over 3,300 counties in the United States. So you want to double check the county as well, just to make sure you're talking to the right people. But that's just some things you want to check. But we first start with price. What can you get it for? Are you getting it? Because if you get it at a big enough discount, that will save your butt on a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah, and it also helps with the speed, right? Like if you don't want to have to outlay capital and then sit on it. I mean, how often are you truly wholesaling these versus I guess early on, I'm assuming your business model was to completely wholesale them. Now is your business model only to buy, or are you still wholesaling and flipping them out before you ever take possession?
Yeah, I mix it up. We just wholesaled 2 in Colorado in the last week. I'm not out there. My team is very limited out there, so I'd prefer to assign those. And when I say assign, I get it under contract, and I flip that contract, or I assign that contract, or wholesale that. It's really funny. I don't have a specific. Okay, we do 33% wholesale, 33%. Yeah, it's not. It's deal by deal by deal, and a lot of times it depends on how much money I have in my bank account and what private lender I have available. I love using private lending. I love working with, John and Mary Smith that have, $50,000, $100,000, $90,000 that they want to earn 9% interest on and secured by land. So if I find that land and I can buy it for 90,000, I generally want to be under that 60% loan to value. So let's just do easy math. 100,000 land's worth 100. I don't want to pay more than 60,000 for it. And we protect our lender by giving them a security instrument like mortgage, promissory note, or deed of trust. And we don't ever touch the money. It goes directly to the title insurance policy. They get a lender's insurance policy, all these things. And most of the time, here's what's really cool about land. That land deal we just got under contract for $800,000. We have a 180-day inspection period that allows us to market it, list it on the MLS, find our buyer. Holy cow, that gives me quite the runway. Yep. I mean, we just canceled a contract on a piece of land in Florida. It was wetlands. I had 2 buyers. I thought we were just going to have a smoking hot deals on 2 buyers, and they ended up backing out. So we just had to cancel the contract. These sellers gave us 6 months to find our buyer. And I was like, that is too much time. Well, we ran out of time. We just canceled it. We were buying it for $159,000. The seller was going to finance us for 15 years at 4%. We only had to come up with 10% down. So $15,000 to buy a piece of land. And I had 2 buyers locked and loaded. They were buying it from us for $250,000, putting $30-something thousand down. That's going to cover our down payment, realtor fees, all this stuff. And they're going to pay 12% interest. They ended up backing out, both of them, because it was just too wet to do what they wanted to do. So sometimes we got to cancel a contract, and thank God I had that runway, because I'd be stuck with that land for probably a year or so until I could sell it.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. Actually, a interesting question. I don't think we've ever asked this one about land investors. So we were supposed to do this podcast a few weeks ago, but I was actually out doing site visits to our properties because we were purchasing some stuff and doing site visits. How often in the land business are you leaving your office to go look at a piece of land?
It's a boring business. I don't leave very often. I told my wife this morning, I think I want to buy an office, because we already have one in Colorado Springs. We rented it out. I was like, I think I want to buy an office so I can change my scenery up during the day because I don't go very often. I find land sales specialist realtors that are local to that area because those are my experts. They know the area better than me. So not very often.
But okay. So then when you get something under contract, are you sending a boots on the ground to go look at it, or is everything like desktop? You're kind of like Jason for the most part. Everything up front is more or less done by desktop.
All desktop until I'm ready to pull a trigger, until I get that thing under contract. That's when now let me back up. The desktop is part of finding that land sales specialist realtor. Who is that? Like, I want to see who's selling the land in that area, that neighborhood. And that's my guy. That's my gal. And I'm going to get them on the phone and say, listen, I really need your help. I'd love to buy this piece of land. I'm getting it at a great deal. I want you to list it for me, but I got to get you to go out there and just double check, make sure the views. I want to know your blowout prices, your get her done now prices, because I don't want to sit on this thing for, longer than 30 days. So I need a price you can guarantee you can sell this land for. Obviously, you're the expert in the area. I see you're selling all the land. Oh yeah, that street, blah, blah, blah. Well, I know you say that, but you still got to go. Like, I want photos and video, because a lot of them, like, they'll get lazy on you. Well, go to the land.
So are you somewhat indicating that, let's say somebody, they're a real estate investor, maybe they're not a real estate investor right now, and they're trying to kind of get into this space a little bit more. Can they do it as a one guy or girl show? Can they run everything themselves? Is there any kind of additional manpower or help that they would need, or can they do it themselves, you think?
You can absolutely do this yourself. I've done it for a long time. I started as myself. I built a team, and then I tightened the belt and did it by myself for a little while longer, because I had a CEO and she stepped down because she actually started another company for herself. So yeah, you can do this yourself, or you can do this with a team of 30 something VAs. I was working with a guy in Texas. He's got 29 or 30 VAs plus his family members. It's just like, I think they're doing about $250 a month, $250,000 a month is their minimum number. And that's just them consistently. A lot of those VAs are overseas, so you can scale this as high as you want it
to. Yeah, I don't know. Jason and I were having an interesting conversation last night in regards to scale. And some days it's better to be a smaller operation. Other days it's super fun to have 87 team members and everything in between. You got to figure out what's right for you and what you want to do. I mean, it seems like land investing provides a pretty good lifestyle business if that's something that you choose to do. And it sounds like it could be super niche. And, this country is gigantic. Coming from the Northeast and then going investing in properties in the South, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be in Baton Rouge. I'll just skip over to New Orleans. It's only an hour on a map. I mean, an hour on a map, I passed God knows how many houses and how many towns. You do an hour on the map between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, there is, nothing. There's literally a bridge over the swamp. And it's a totally different world when you get out of your bubble, especially for those of us that are watching this up here in the Northeast where we're super densely populated. It's sometimes hard to fathom how much land and how much alternative assets there are outside of what we're so used to where we are. So
that's such a great point. When I started, so we bought a 37-foot camper and we started going back and forth across the country. It is unbelievable. And I had already been doing land for a couple of years at that point. It is unbelievable the amount of land available, because I was like, oh, maybe a lot of people are talking about this. We call that the reticular activator. You buy that black Chevy, now you see it everywhere. Same thing with land. I'm like, man, there's more and more land investors popping up. Or same thing with house wholesalers or multifamily or mobile homes. But you get to driving and it takes you days to get across the country at 75 miles an hour. You'll realize how there's no God was abundant. Look outside, all the trees and the grass and the leaves. There's just so much of everything.
Well, don't they say it takes 3 days to drive across Texas on Route 10? I mean, it is literally a massive state, dude. It is mind-boggling how big some of this stuff is. And then the crazy part is you're in Colorado and Arizona. There's a lot of freaking desert, man. There is just a lot of waste, almost wasteland too, which is interesting to see that you're able to trade these deals that are some people just like buying land and just having it because some people, I mean, I guess we can't create any more of it, although who knows what the future holds, but we literally can't create any more of it. So it's interesting that people find a way to invest in real estate other than bricks and mortar. So,
there are dozens of different ways to be real estate investors. When someone says I'm a real estate investor, I think a lot of people, at least around here, it's like, oh, you fix and flip houses. I mean, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of strategies, and it depends on what works for you. Well, one thing before we actually ask our final question that I want to recap for the audience who's been listening, because I think this is probably the most powerful part of your operation, but related to, you get the property under contract, potentially, or wholesaling it to begin with, or assigning it, and you're not really taking any risk. If you do it that way, obviously sometimes you close on them and you resell them. But I think the real magic of this is holding paper after the fact. So you're not just, in essence, selling this thing to make 10 grand or 100 grand, whatever it is, right? A one-time hit. It seems like you're structuring these things so you are taking cash out now, right? But you also have a long-term cash flowing vehicle, and that's the beauty of it. And that's what's turning this into a passive income stream that I think a lot of folks would probably just leave out. It's like, oh, hey, cool. I'm a deal junkie. I flipped a house and I made my money and I'm out. That's not the case. You're flipping this real estate, this land, you're making money now, and you're doing 12% notes based on based on everything else after the fact. So you're making hundreds or thousands of dollars a month per property. And I think so many real estate investors don't think into the future. They literally think short term of, hey, I would just rather $10,000 today, and that's it. We'll be like, okay, well, what was if you could get $10,000 a day plus $200 a month for the next 10 years? And then you do that on scale, multiple. And that's the one missing link with so many real estate investors. They all just want a big hit, and that's it. And they don't think about the future. And what you said, you indicated it's like, hey, I bought a lot of rent, and we used to own a lot of rental properties. We sold 20 of them in the last few years because they were awful. And I agree. And even if they cash flow nicely, and they're worth more today. I was telling you last night, the ones we all sold were probably doubled in the last 3 years. I sold them around COVID time. They doubled, but you know what? I'm still alive, and I probably wouldn't have been alive if I had to manage those things along with all of our other daily businesses. So that's the beauty that hopefully all of our audience picked up of the way that you're structuring it. And even if they're not doing it on the land side, maybe think about that on the other side, of how you're doing real estate. There's multiple ways to make money and, get paid now and continue to get paid later. And I think passive income is such a powerful term that too many real estate investors don't, they're not focused enough on. They're just focused on the active, easy, quick dopamine hit.
You hit it. Dopamine hit. It is extremely addictive to get those $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 checks, but it's also really addicting when you increase your passive income every single week by $500, $500. Before you know it, we're 4 months into it. I have 1,000. Next month I have 2,000. The following month I have 3,000. And that really adds up in 12, 14, 18 months. Like I gave myself a 5-year runway. 5 years is all I wanted to do was build up that passive income. And it's crazy how fast that, like we all underestimate what we can do in a day, but we overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in a few years.
That's right. I love that. I love that quote. And there's so many different variations about that. There's so many different variations of it. I love it. Nice. So let's do this. One of the things we like to ask all of our guests is what's a current book or podcast that you're either reading or listening to that you're in love with and you really kind of recommend for everyone. Ian and I have created a pretty good book list and podcast list selfishly just from asking guests this. And Ian and I typically are on the same reading schedule. We both are able to bang through about a book a week, and it's interesting. But what do you have? I don't know if you listen to podcasts more than books, but what's something that you really recommend? Either something that you're reading currently, or just something that's like, hey, I finished this a few years ago, and it's number one. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the Wholesaling Inc. podcast is my favorite because I get to interview my students on there that are just doing amazing deals. Every single Friday, we have a case study come out. I share that platform with two other coaches, Brent Daniels and Todd Toback. But books, I absolutely love. I got stacks and stacks of books on my bookshelf, like Who Not How. Another good one by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy is the Gap and the Gain. The Gap and the Gain, amazing book. The Gap and the Gain. I'm repeating it so many times. Profit First for real. I'm sorry, Profit First. If you're not setting this up, like scaling could be very dangerous for people. Profit First, and then another one, Jason, you would probably like this. Invest in Debt. Like just knowing how notes work. I'm not investing in notes. I'm not buying other people's notes. I'm creating notes.
Yeah, well, that's a good book to read because you have the opportunity, one thing, and when Jason was talking about the power of your business model, you have the power to sell that note or assign a piece of that note to someone else to get the cash you need to do other deals, which is super powerful. I've read that book, Invest in Debt. It's really good. And actually, all the books you pretty much put up, we've read, and they are solid books. Who Not How has been life-changing, and Profit First, we implemented it in our business because exactly that. We weren't paying ourselves. We continued to scale. We're like, where the F is the money?
Yeah, where'd the money go?
Yeah, and what Jason talks about all the time is like, dude, that money just gets shoot up in your operating account. I'm like, God damn it, you're right. And then we started doing that. Next, cash started falling out the bottom. We're like, holy shit, we're actually making money. We can quit our jobs and we can continue on. So those are really good books. And everybody, we'll put them in the show notes so everyone can take a look at them and read up on them. Brent, we appreciate you coming on. I know it's sunny in Florida. I'm sure you got plenty of fun stuff to go do. Where's the best place people can find you online? We'll get your other links in the show notes as well. But where's the best people, if they want to learn more about what you do, how you do it, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, I love coaching people on this. That's my passion. Thelandsharks.com. If you schedule a call on there, fill out that application. I personally will be calling you. Thelandsharks.com. I bet it's really easy to find me on all the social medias. Brent L, and the L stands for land. Brent L Bowers. Brent L Bowers 1. I think you can find me on most places.
Right on. All right. Well, we'll get all that in the show notes, man. We appreciate you coming on, sharing more information about land. I think you're your second or third land guest, and every time I always leave amazed. Like, God damn it, what a simple business. It seems like something easy that people can get involved in, and appreciate you being transparent, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. God bless, gentlemen.
Thanks, Brent. We'll chat soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.